This is Chad Kent from Atomship on Discography Discussion.
Discography Discussion and discussmetal.com present our interview with Chad Kent of Atomship, recorded on September 3rd, 2017.
Anything?
That sounds like it might be better.
It is way better.
Chaos AD.
That's awesome.
Hey.
Sweet. Oh my God.
Finally!
So how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good. I'm Dan. I'm the email guy, and this is Joe.
What's up, Dan?
I'm Joe.
Not too much.
Joe? Congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. My wife was kind enough to let me come down and do this tonight. So
She rules.
yeah.
We have the exact same kind of light in my church that I play at. That's over there to your left.
Oh, I gotcha.
Nice.
So what's up?
Not too much, man.
We're talking to Chad Kent from Atomship because, hell yes.
Yeah, we made no bones. Did you listen to the episode that we did?
I have heard bits and pieces of it.
I gotcha. Yeah, I wasn't on that episode, strangely enough. Well, actually, I was. It's funny. I was out of town whenever they recorded that, and I was so pissed off when they did the episode that I ended up calling in, I think, 10 minutes later and giving my thoughts.
So, dude, what's been going on for like the past 13 years? Because you have been hard as hell to find.
Well, what's happened was some political things happened making the second record, and I made the choice to step away from it. It just was not fulfilling, and Nathan was let go of the band before I was came to that decision to go, and it just wasn't the same once he was gone. And so then after that, life happens. I was in another band called Castle Bravo, and we were writing some pretty progressive, pretty cool music. And then one of the main members, owned a logging company, and he had to start going on the road a lot, so that kind of fizzled out. And and then just more life. And then just recently, we all decided, actually last summer, the three of us had talked about bringing Atomship back, and it just never materialized. Work schedules, where the singer was living, it just didn't work out. And then finally this spring, Joey and Roy and myself, and we had finally decided that, we've been too long to not at least honor the memory of Nathan, so his brother, Jared Slade, he stepped up to the plate and learned the songs, and he even found Nathan's old equipment and his MIDI board so we could match the sounds, and we did it. So we just, put our noses to the grindstone and brought all the material back and polished it all off, and we did a show in Jackson. Then we did one locally July 22nd to a crowd of over 400, and we didn't really advertise or anything. It was just, word of mouth and the following we have on the coast, and a bunch of our fans showed up. We had people from out of state showing up, and it was really cool. So,
well, if I had known about it, I would have been there.
Oh yeah, we would have made the drive for sure.
Despite the 7 or 8 hour drive, it would have been a zero questions asked. Atomship is returning. Time to get in the car, Joe. I admit I forgot pretty much every question I possibly wanted to ask you, so I'm just going to shoot from the hip a little bit and say,
sure.
I'm going to get the fanboy question right out of the way so that my brother will stab me in the back. How does it feel to be the greatest drummer in the fucking world? Seriously.
Yeah, I wish that was the case, man. I appreciate it though, but
all right, now that I got that one out of the way, what is the deal with the slanted kit, man? Because you play that kit that's slanted back towards you, and I've never understood why.
Okay, well, I've always looked for ways to, make drumming a little more efficient. And before I got that frame, a drummer that I became interested in, his name's Akira Jimbo. And I noticed that with his kit, he had shoved everything in as tight as you possibly could with a standard kit that sits on the floor. And so I mimicked his setup, and lo and behold, I was like, wow, this is actually a lot more efficient to play, especially the fast stuff. So you don't get tired as quickly. And ergonomically, it's actually way more correct. It's easier on your body. You're not reaching as far, so the timing of the events, you're not having to go as far, use as much muscle. I mean, it just makes sense. And then I saw a local buddy of mine down here had the drum frame. And at the time, it was made by Bob Gatson, the inventor. And they were really hard to find, really rare, really expensive. But I was very intrigued by this thing. And, my buddy, he's kind of into science and stuff too. And so he was explaining the science behind it, and he let me sit down and play on it. And it feels really strange just by tipping everything back 15 degrees. But at the same time, I could already tell that, this was like an unbelievable invention. It was even more efficient than anything you could set up with a flat drum set. So before our first tour, I wanted to give it a shake. So I guess maybe foolishly, about 2 weeks before the first tour, I went and I bought it from him. And he gave me quite a steep discount on it. He just said it was too much headache to lug around, and he felt that I could use it, a little bit more efficiently than he could. Well, I think I practiced on it maybe 2 times, and I used to do these drum solo shows with Upstairs Downstairs in Biloxi, and it was just me and a buddy of mine, Dave Devaney, which ultimately went out on one of the tours with us as a guitar tech. But he would get up there with the bass guitar, and I would solo for about 5 minutes, focusing on a particular ostinato or something, and then he would come in with a groove, and then I would slice it up 10 different ways, and then he would step back out, and then I would solo some more, do something else. So yeah, we did that one show, and then I took it out on tour. And then, of course, it's my first national tour. At the time, we're out with Evanescence, which at that time was the biggest rock name in the land at the time. They just released their debut album. And the first show, I felt so out of place. I fought the whole idea of the frame. I was leaned forward the whole time. I wouldn't sit back. I didn't relax. I think I threw 3 sticks that night. And I just could not wait to get off the stage. I felt so out of place on it. And I was like, man, this was a total mistake. I shouldn't have bought this thing. It's too weird. Because it's quite the change in how you feel. All the weight's off your feet. You're free to balance on it. And everything is in even closer to you. The cymbals especially in closer. And I played the next show the next night, and I was very uncomfortable again. I even called my manager, and I was like, man, I can't do this. We got to get me set up for a flat drum kit. And he's like, dude, this is a shorter tour. If you can, just tough it out, and then we'll set you back up with your regular kit. Because I'd already sold all the basses to my cymbal stands and stuff. I was like, I don't need those, But then I think it was our 4th show. We played the Reno Hilton. And it was the 2nd largest room in the United States that's indoors. And there's 10,000 people in there. And they didn't know who we were, but this crowd was so ready to be entertained. Before we actually went out there as the show, Nathan and I walked out on the stage with our 8mm cameras, and as soon as the crowd saw us, they just exploded. We're talking about 10,000 people inside, not like an outdoor festival, and you could just feel the energy off it. And then when we played, we always opened with Mothra, and we got to the bridge section where Nathan just comes in with the guitar, and then I lead in with the hi-hats, and the crowd got so incredibly loud they overpowered the stage monitor system, so we couldn't even hear ourselves. We didn't use in-ears, but I still remember, and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. There was so much energy, all of that weirdness from the drum frame, being uncomfortable, overthinking it all just went away. It vanished in that second, and from that point on, I loved that drum frame. We rocked the show. I broke a crash cymbal that night. I was so into it, and I've never looked back since. It is the most efficient way of playing a drum set, and I think it's probably the coolest invention for a drum set, except for maybe the double bass pedal, because then you get rid of that bass drum, the extra bass drum. But yeah, the frame is awesome. I'd never play without it.
A funny story about Mothra, this guy, for years, back in the mid to late 2000s when message boards were still really big, because that was, of course, prior to Twitter and all that, anytime anybody would say this guy is the fastest double bass player, or this black metal band has the fastest double bass, he would just send them just a clip of Mothra and say, so this is a rock band, and he's faster than your drummer.
Oh, no. Actually, if at actual beats per minute, the very end of Alien is the fastest stuff on the album.
I agree. That's actually my favorite track off of the record.
All right, Dan, talk about Aliens.
Well, not necessarily Aliens itself, but
Get on that sucker.
but what I like is that so like I'm predominantly a metal guy. Like our obviously our website is discussmetal, and there was a little bit of controversy, I think, whenever we did an Atomship episode. People were like, well, it's not true metal, because like we listen to a lot of like underground thrash and death metal and just that really extreme stuff. And but there, I guess what it attracted me to Atomship really, and again, we're not saying any of this just to suck up or to be weird or anything like that, but like what attracted me to Atomship as a metal fan was the drumming, and that was such a big deal to me, because I remember just thinking like and not to insult the other members of the band, because
we're totally down for that.
No, I have nothing but I have nothing.
We're down for the interview. I don't mean we're down to insult.
I have nothing negative to say about Nathan's guitar playing, because that was also a really big attractor too. But the drumming was. I used to always tell people that like this is kind of like when you're playing a style of music that doesn't require over the top production, or sorry.
No.
I've been talking about Sepultura all night, so it doesn't require an over the top percussive section. But like, damn, does it not make a difference when it is there? And and that was my biggest attraction, I think, to Atomship, was that like, sure, you lead in with a song like Day of Days, and people are like, okay, I dig this, I'm into it. It was really kind of like in the pocket for what was out or at that time, and it was musically relevant, at the time. But then like to hear something like Mothra right after that, and even stuff like Aliens, and Agent Orange, and songs like that, it really solidified for me that like, okay, it's not that I don't like good rock bands. It's just that there aren't a lot of good rock bands, at that time. And so like for me, that was always huge, because I remember when I would listen to a newer like heavy band at that time, I used to always really be like, well, is it heavier than Atomship? Because that was kind of my because if they can do it but still have a sellable sound,
right?
What chance do these more extreme bands have? And that's where Joe gets that whole me posting on forums and and giving quotes, because it was really out of this world. I mean, especially if you compared the Crash of 47 to some of the other records that were out at that time on that label. You had kind of this generic. I'm not saying that the songs weren't good from some of the other bands, but they were a little bit more formulaic. Whereas you'd have, I'd say Atomship had a few formulaic songs, and those were obviously the singles.
Yes.
But some of the deep cuts on those records, I mean, Aliens just that song just kicks my ass, and
well, actually, that's there's when we first went to Dave Fortman to cut our first demo. That was actually like a fork in the road for the band. And when Atomship formed, we had all previously been in bands where we were trying to get noticed by record labels. So we were writing, I guess you'd say catchier, simpler songs, and it just never panned out. So when we all came together, we all had the same idea that, let's write for ourselves and let's write for the musicians out there. Forget the radio crowd,
Right.
Forget those that just want the standard 4/4 and easy to digest. Let's make some really interesting, emotional music. So when we went to Dave Fortman, the label, had kind of spoke with him a little bit, and he said, okay, so the label's asking, if we can, possibly like simplify these songs a little bit. And all three of us looked at each other, and here he is with his, gold records and platinum records in the back of the studio. And we just said, we can appreciate where that's coming from, and maybe we can, bend a little bit, but we put a lot of hard work into making these songs the way they are. So if we have to change and simplify drums and make this the standard cookie cutter stuff, then that's cool. We're going to take it somewhere else. And he said, all right, let's make a record. And so we didn't have to really do a whole lot of cutting and slicing. And Aliens is actually exactly as the three of us wrote that song.
I would have guessed that based on the live performances that I saw, because, YouTube has occasional bootlegs that can be located.
Yeah.
And Derek, I think, was still playing bass. Was Derek still involved at that point, or was it Joey?
No, at that point, he was gone. Reluctantly, I wished he could have been with us. He was, the original part of the recipe, So, but yeah, he wasn't with us at that point anymore. But Joey did a very outstanding job of emulating Derek's sound and his nuances of how he delivered, and that was very important, when we were trying out singers. So
the first time I became aware of Derek was when Atomship became Atomship Down.
Oh, okay.
Because for one split second on MySpace, there was...
Oh, yeah.
I don't even remember what the reason was, but I go to that particular page, and it was Atomship Down. What the hell is this? And it was versions of the songs that I had never heard, and it was a long, drawn-out message about how we were done with major label BS.
Yeah.
Which led me down the path of who is this Derek Pardoe guy, because the first time I heard Atomship was probably 2 days after the Crash of 47 came out. I went to my drum lesson with somebody that I went to high school with who is infinitely better drummer than I will ever be. He gave me 2 records. He gave me Pulse Ultra and he gave me Atomship, and he said, all right, now sit down, we're going to play Dragonfly.
Okay.
And I said to him, I swear, dude, he doesn't play that verse with 2 hands on the snare. I think you're doing that wrong. And he said, no, you got to play it this way. And I'm like, no, it's all in the right hand. He says,
hand, that's right.
Yes!
And I've noticed too, like in I've seen a video where somebody is playing it, and it's awesome that people, try to emulate it. But the small things are what makes the song, or makes the drumming anyway, what it really is. And I've never seen anybody actually, you keep all of the quarter note beats going with a hat while throwing in the double kick, as it, expands through the verses. And, the one hand on the snare drum, all those little things add up to, hey, if you're only going to rate it 3.5 stars on a 5-star for difficulty, try playing it the right way, and it might actually increase your difficulty level,
Because all you did was move the ride cymbal to the snare, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I was actually trying to go for like just a straight, almost like a marching sound or something, so 16 triplets, one hand, why not? It's just different.
Here you go doing math with all 4 of your limbs. Because see previous statement.
Yeah.
Is the common story that I've heard, and I say that because I don't remember where I read it, that the whole reason Derek wasn't involved in the record was just anxiety? Or is that something you... Okay.
No, that is absolutely true. When the band formed, he was 15, maybe 16.
Wow.
And yeah, really young. And, we had no idea it was going to take off even locally the way it did. Because, like I said, we just thought, let's just write some material for us. Well, I think it was our second show we played. What was it? Aaron Gaynor, which was AJ Fantastic, one of the local DJs here. He was the drummer for 12 Stones.
Okay.
Well, we didn't realize it, but he was at our show at that we played down in Biloxi, and he heard us and was really impressed with it. And like I said, we had just made a splash on the music scene, and we had a homemade demo that we made in a storage unit with one microphone hanging up. And he comes to us, it's like, man, you guys have a CD. I've got to have, our management hear this. And of course, at the time, they were being managed by Kenny Vest, which, he's the man. He was director of Triad Broadcasting for the radio stations here. He helped discover 3 Doors Down. And, he discovered 12 Stones, got them signed to Wind Up. So, of course, we're like, oh, my word, I don't know if we want to give you our CD because it's horrible. And he said, no, let me just have it. Kenny will read between the lines. And we're like, Kenny? He was like, yeah, Kenny Vest. I want to give it to him and let him hear it. So we just couldn't believe it. Well, like 2 or 3 days later, Kenny Vest called us and he said that he wanted to have a meeting with us. And so we went and met, and he wanted to manage us. We were blown away. I mean, we hadn't played even 3 weekends on the Gulf Coast, and now we have the biggest manager in the area wants us. So then after that, with Kenny's connections, it was just weeks later we were playing a show with 12 Stones, and then a few weeks after that we were playing at the House of Blues in New Orleans, which locally that is the place to play. We were expanding so fast, Derek didn't know what to take of it, and he started to slowly develop this agoraphobia. And as time went on, the bigger our name got, the worse it got, his agoraphobia. It was crazy how the two went hand in hand. It was almost like it just happened too fast for him. And by the time, we had been on the coast maybe 6 months, then the local radio stations every year, they do this Battle of the Bands thing. Well, we thought for sure, we're going to do that and we're going to smoke everybody around here because, that was the buzz in the music community was, there was no band around here that could touch us. And our manager said, no, you're not doing that. You're not doing some competition. And we were a little upset at first, but then a week later we found out the reason why he didn't want us to do it was because the winners of the Battle of the Bands got to open for us at a big show that Triad was, putting on. So, that was the prize. And there was tons of folks, wanted to do it. And then at that point, Derek realized, wow, we're really popular, and the labels started talking to us. And then he just he couldn't take it all. And when we went to fly to New York City, he made it to the tunnel to get on the plane, and he locked up, and it was deer caught in the headlights. And they held the plane for 20 minutes, and he just couldn't do it. And then after that, he was pretty much a prisoner in his own home for years and years. But then he eventually got over it. Now he runs his own business, and actually 2 businesses, and he's pretty much licked that problem that he had.
He's still making music, isn't he?
I think it's been a little while since he made any. He and I were working on the Watership Down project, but then when the Atomship thing formed, he wasn't very happy about it, and he pulled the plug on Watership Down.
I was surprised the first time I heard "Come Back," because I know you were doing it independent, but I was still surprised to hear that. Well, obviously the vocals were auto-tuned, but I gave it 2 or 3 minutes, and I said, okay, I think I understand what he's going for.
Yeah, the auto-tune was like an experiment. He hadn't done anything like that, and we were just trying to do something a little different, and that song actually had a lot of relevance to me because I had just found myself separated from my ex-wife, and that was definitely an outlet. It was really meant something. I hadn't played, I think 2 or 3 weeks before that song was recorded. I was on a training ride on my bike because I raced mountain bikes, and I got hit by a car. And you can't see it in the video, but I'm actually wearing a TENS unit and everything while I'm playing. And that was the first time I played since I got hit. And Derek was just like, dude, he said, I know you're really hurting from your separation and now this crash thing. Why don't you sit down and jam to some drums? And so we just kind of collaborated on what I'd gone through with her and the feelings I had. And he just, boom, like that. He comes up with these lyrics. The melodies are there, and then I lay the drum tracks down, and there was, it's one of my favorite songs that I've done with him as far as the ballads go.
So this, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but there was a, I guess what I wondered whenever I had first discovered that Atomship was a thing again. I guess my question was, what was the decision for going with Joey versus Derek? Like I said, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, because I'm sure there might be some feelings there, but it was just a curiosity I had.
To be fair, this man has been singing Joey Culver's praises about as long as I've been singing Derek Pardoe.
I'm a bigger Joey fan, but
well, obviously we share a name, so yeah.
But each musician has their own unique quality that makes them what they are. And I can just say that there's certain aspects, maybe on a performance level that I would give the edge to Joey. But as far as raw songwriting talent, Derek, I mean, he is one of the most talented songwriters I've ever worked with, hands down.
Sure, and I believe it. I mean, I figure most of what I heard on Crash of 47 was Derek.
Everything that you hear on Crash of 47 is Derek's, except for Plastic People was really Joey's contribution to the lyrical side of that album. But, I mean, like I said, they're both amazing musicians. I've never actually had anybody pull out of me that type of drumming, though, as Derek. And I mean, I've worked with a lot of local musicians. There was a few years where, I was like drummer for hire around here, and I did a lot of, side projects just to record for local acts, Sunday Vale. And I had a woman from Colorado liked our album so much that she like flew me out and my drums and everything and had me record on this album, Ghost Embrace, of hers.
I was going to ask you how that came to be, because that was for a long time the only video of Chad Kent I could find on YouTube.
I just got this message from her on Facebook, and she said, "Is this the Chad Kent from Atomship?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And she said, "Well, I think your drumming is super amazing, and I'm about to make an album, and I'd have anything I could do to get you to come out and record on it." So I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And
let's do it, right? Yeah.
I pretty much wrote every song on that album except for one right there on the spot out in Colorado.
Wow.
So
see previous statement.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, it's just one of those things where, and it was weird for us because we were kind of out of the loop, because we decided, so like whenever we started this podcast where we were like, we're going to talk about a discography of a band, like we always were like, well, what do we do about those bands that we love that only have one record? And how do we handle that? And so what we did was we took the Atomship record, and then we took another band that was new. So we were like kind of an older band and a newer band, and put them together in one episode. And what was crazy is as soon as we put that thing out, like we published it, everybody was like, "Dude, you guys know Atomship is like back, right?" And we're like,
I had no idea.
Yeah, and we're like, No, I had no idea. Yeah.
Which is sad, because there's a portion of my day that goes about looking at Atomship stuff online. Like, oh, look, here's this bootleg of a live performance. Let me just rip that from my iTunes collection.
Yeah, so we were totally floored, because, I know that at that time it was hard to kind of keep a good, consistent project together, because I think that was kind of the last leg of what we would consider to be the music industry as we know. Like, there's the music industry as we know it today, and then there was the way it was back then. And
yes.
Back then it was very much still very old school, in the sense of like, okay, you can do what you want to do on this record, but we need at least 2 singles, or we need we need that song that we can make a video for, And
that was mostly how it was. The only song that was written on our album, that was written specifically as a single, was Withered. That was something we never would have written if it wasn't for the label saying, "Hey, look, we really kind of need a ballad." We all were kind of mumbling and about even doing that song, because that's not really who we were as a band. But and it's kind of funny, because that's the song that the label thought would just take us to new heights, when in reality, once they released that out to the the DJs and stuff, that's when they kind of turned their backs on us.
If I was a record exec, it would have been Time for People, 100%.
Oh yeah, anything other than Withered, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Time for People was one of those, like, everybody was really into bands that had kind of fucked up lyrics. And so I think a song like Time for People, it's got that hook to it. And, it kind of just like gives you an impression of what you're going to hear on that record. Like, if you hadn't heard Crash of 47 before, you get kind of a taste of what you're going to be experiencing lyrically. And I think that was huge, because, like you said, with Withered, it was kind of like a little out of place. And, it's funny, though. Yeah, like, I believe that like, the record executives kind of had kind of had their priorities in like, or their tastes or whatever their ideas were for what a good hit song was. What they're basing that off of is previous hit songs that they had years before. But the average fan of that type of music doesn't care what was popular a year ago.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Pencil Fight did way better on the rock charts than Withered did.
That was the one that had the video, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, and that's also, originally we were going to do, the band had a completely different vision of the video for that. And leading right up until about a month before we actually shot the video, everybody at the label was excited about our idea. It was basically going to be a claymation. And at key parts of the musical performance, we'd actually show the band members playing. And like the whole end of the video was going to be just the band playing. But then last minute, then we get this call from the label, from the A&R that ultimately sank the band also. I won't mention his name, but he said, hey, we have this group of folks that they've been doing CGI work for like movies and things, but they'd like to get into the music industry, so they're offering to do your video for free. And we're like, well, okay, what is it? And then it basically just turned into, a rehash of, like an Evanescence video or something.
Sure.
And all of us, except for, of course, Joey, were not happy about, the way they wanted to do the video, but we had no choice. We had to do it. So.
Right. We just talked to a singer from the band Project 86. We talked to him a week ago, and then he was kind of describing a very similar around the same time experience of, it's almost like everybody having their hand in your bucket, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Everybody making your decisions for you versus what you guys really wanted to do as a band, and that's that's sad. It sucks that. That good music was kind of limited in such a way that, they wanted to take what you guys had that you were proud of and make it basically ultimately unpalatable for people that, really wanted to get into it.
Well, that's what happened on the second record we ended up with Complete Control, ended up being given over to this new A&R, and he came over from a large label, and he didn't like our old style. He didn't like Derek's style of writing, didn't want heavy music. He just wanted to make standard old, bubblegum rock, cookie cutter stuff. Or
is what we would call butt rock now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So then that's when the songwriting got handed over to Bob Marlette and Rick Beato, and they pretty much single-handedly wrote the songs on the album.
Wow.
Yeah,
is that why it never saw the light of day?
Well, no, actually what it was me and Nathan tried to stand up to this decision, and, we let the label know, hey, we specifically had a clause in our contract because we knew this would eventually come up, just we didn't think so soon, and we were given final say and all creative control of the material. And this new A&R said, well, basically, we own you, and if you don't want to do what we want you to do, we're just going to tear up your contract. So, and that's what they did. They tanked Atomship, and then that's what became Papercut Massacre. And that's why that album sounds completely different than anything Atomship. The only song on that album that made it on that album that me and Nathan and Derek had hand in writing was Left for Dead.
I gotcha. And that's why that song sounds so similar, because I remember hearing that song and thinking, okay,
yes.
I remember as a fan being like, this might be okay. And then I heard the rest of the record, and I was like,
Yep.
Yeah.
Amen. Yep.
Right.
Everything else was the productions of Rick Beato and Bob Marlette.
Wow.
Is there any Watership Down that didn't make the record?
Oh my word, yeah. There's probably we had to axe probably 10 Watership Down songs that we really liked, and all of those were definitely on the other end of being radio friendly.
Oh yeah. So more extreme almost.
There were some really good ones, really weird ones, very unique. And there was a time when Atomship Down reformed, or formed anyway. We were going to try to bring those songs back, but then the untimely death of Nathan pretty much ended that chance.
What can you tell me about Nathan? Because I feel like Nathan is my biggest guitar influence that I only got one record out of. I have talked to people that will tell you night and day that everything about them is influenced by Kurt Cobain. And while I'm not saying I wouldn't cite him as a reference, I listened to Nathan I listened to the Crash of 47. I've heard Come Back, a couple other songs that I'm not sure where they fall in your timeline. You could probably tell me the entire songography of Watership Down through Atomship, but every piece of writing I've ever found about Nathan Slade, some of it I think was from you, some of it I think was from Derek. The rest of it, I couldn't tell you who said it, but everybody says he was the best guitarist that ever lived.
Wow.
And they weren't embellishing like, no, it's like Jimi Hendrix level. It's like, no, this guy could play anything, with anything.
Nathan was a master at allowing the drums to breathe. That's what Derek and I always said. He just loved the ear candy and I guess you'd say the whale sounds, but he did. He left a lot of open space for a lot of the more complex drums to breathe. And in the spots where the drums weren't quite so complex, then he was just, tearing into it. And he and I would write a lot of evenings when Derek wasn't able to make the rehearsals. And that's actually how Alien came to pass. There was a night that Derek couldn't make it out, so he and I were like, man, we need to come up with some crazy math one, and he and I just worked hand in hand on doing that kind of stuff.
Is it true that you wrote Mothra just so you could show off, Chad?
No, that is not true. Yes. Mothra is that actually was a 5/4 drum part that I had written, and I never could get a guitar player to really want to work with it, and or they try to write something on it and it just didn't sound right. So when another evening when Derek couldn't make a rehearsal, I kind of even had an idea of the note pattern I wanted in my mind for this. And it was like, and because you notice how hand in hand the guitar rhythm just goes with the drums. And I'm sure it sounded silly at the time in the studio, but I was pretty much sounding out the tones to Nathan, and he would match it on the guitar, and then there's pretty much Mothra. Although that was just the verses, and like the outro and stuff. But the bridge was all Nathan. That was somewhere I just can't really, think of what would go here. But this is the drum part, and he just immediately ripped out, the guitar part.
That's always been something that I say that Atomship shines with is none of you seem to be trying to take the spotlight. You're always trying to shine up everybody else in the band.
Oh yeah. We try to, that's what we did. We wanted everything to sound very cohesive and work with each other. And it's funny because we always used to say that too. It's almost like each one of us is just kind of doing our own thing, but somehow it all meshed together and it just fit.
Sorry, I'm listening to Whitfield.
Oh yes, oh yeah. Yeah, the Nut House in Mississippi.
Is it a real place?
Yeah.
That explains so much about the lyrics.
Yes. Uh-huh. Oh yeah. If you go into Whitfield, you got problems.
That's awesome. We honestly would have never made that connection.
I thought it was just a dream that Derek was having. Like, okay, so there's a man outside and he's screaming. No, now I think you guys were just driving by and he just wrote everything down everybody said.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was one of those tunes that, some of the shows that we did, some of the smaller tours we did, the crowd's just there to see the headliner and, who's Atomship, they know who we are. And it's funny that anytime we would whip that song out, no matter how dead or not into us the crowd might be, we would throw that song out, and every single time that song would blow up, even a crowd of 150 folks. Next thing you know, they are treating us like we're the headliner, man. Everybody loved that song.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And we never saw that coming,
Now that you guys are back, it sounds generic, but what are the actual plans for the band?
Well, originally it was just to honor Nathan. We just wanted to do a few shows, give it back to the fans because, for years they've been saying, when are you coming back out? When are you going to write some new material? And so it really was just, we're doing this for Nathan, here's his brother on the guitar. And so initially we hadn't had any rock solid plans to keep going with it. But then once we did the very first show, we're like, hey, you know what? Let's see about writing some stuff. So for a few rehearsals, we focused on writing a couple of new songs, and things were coming together pretty well. So right now there's a chance, though, that we may have hit a little bump in the road, and it may actually draw things out again to where we can get new material out. So our singer may be having to take a little detour as far as his living location. So
is he moving closer?
Well, we don't know for certain if he's going to have to do it or not, but he may be moving a little farther away. So that will complicate matters as far as getting the new material finished.
Well, that is the cool thing about 2017, though, versus,
Yes.
04, is the sense that
Electronic.
Well, yeah, and music has been taken back by the artist, in the sense that, like, back in 04, the best you could do is get signed to a label, right? It was like, put out your demos, play as many shows as you can, try to get on with bigger bands and stuff. But, in 2017, it's like, okay, we already have this established fan base, because I'm sure the reaction to the return was probably greater than anticipated.
It was, we were expecting maybe 250 at that show in Ocean Springs, and I mean, it was almost double that. So, and the crowd response that we got was just outstanding. I mean, it was a really, really fantastic night. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where, you have that you already had, you're one of the lucky ones in that you actually have that fan base built in. So It's one of those, you can do really what you want at this point, because you don't have to worry about, a label coming in and saying, well, you need to do this. You're like, dude, we could release an album on iTunes tomorrow and it'd be worldwide,
Right.
And that's, that's one of the biggest benefits to music now that I've found, versus back then. Cause I mean, I remember being in bands and submitting demos and trying to, like, suck up to these people that I knew that eventually I would not have a good relationship with, and so, so then that was the coolest thing whenever I found out that Atomship was back, because I was like, dude, this is the time where I almost feel like you guys could go further than before, that you were held back, and obviously, no pressure, but that was just my initial thought, and that we were super excited that it was a deal again, and that's why we were like, we need to get in contact, because this is something that was very important to us, and just as fans. I mean, since 04, I mean, it's weird talking to you now, even in the sense of, like, I can remember listening to Crash of 47, shit, I mean, when I was in high school, and it'd be one of those, and
at least once a week since then?
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent, and it just goes to show that, like, everything on Wind Up Records wasn't, total shit, and, but yeah, man, it was definitely cool getting to talk to you, and we definitely have a policy on our show we have kind of an open door policy. So if you ever kicking something around in your head that you want to talk about, or something that you've been influenced by, or a band that you just are really passionate about, or something, hit us up, dude. We'll talk to you for an hour about it at least.
Well, that's awesome. I've been influenced by, as a drummer, probably like Matt Cameron's one of my big influences. Soundgarden, super awesome drummer. As far as when I was younger, anyway. And then as I got a little bit more mature, Danny Carey, definitely from Tool, one of my biggest influences, and I know he's a lot more straightforward drummer, and when I was growing up, I was kind of limited as to what music was allowed in my house. So
I grew up in a Christian household, so I get it. Yeah.
Robert, what was it? Robert Sweet from Stryper.
Mm-hmm. Good drummer, though. Yeah. Solid,
Oh yeah, super.
Did you ever listen to a Christian metal band called Tourniquet?
No,
Check out their drummer. There's a guy named Ted Kirkpatrick. They played like They played like thrash metal, I guess. See, I was really into Christian music whenever I was younger because that was all I was allowed to listen to.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, Tourniquet was they were one of the first Christian like thrash bands, and their drummer though was a cut above. And I feel a lot of the same way that I feel about Atomship, in the sense that like the drumming was almost more. I don't want to say it outshined the band, because I don't feel like that was ever your intent, but like it just was. I mean, shit, man. Like you listen to stuff like Whitfield. Whitfield could have been played so much more simply than it was, but I don't know, man. Like it's just that makes the song that the drumming is so much more complex, maybe than even the song warrants. And I love that as like an extreme music fan. And but yeah, if you ever get a chance to check out Tourniquet, definitely check out.
Yeah, I've actually got them pulled up on my cell phone.
Okay, cool. Yeah, their album Psychosurgery is awesome.
Oh yeah, there it is.
If you like old Metallica, they're the thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't?
Yeah, I started off as the Christian metal guy. That's what was so funny is whenever we started doing this podcast, we started talking about Christian metal bands all the time, and people were like, "Wait, what?" And then I was like, "Oh shit, they're on to us. Let's talk about Slayer this week,
Slayer.
or something, and yeah. So that was but that's the drummer that I kind of in my mind I kind of compare you to a little bit, in the sense that like it's two very different styles, obviously, but a band that could have just played it straight. The drummer could have just been a Lars Ulrich, but
right. That's actually you talking about that the chorus. When we wrote that song, I was having a hard time thinking of something to contrast the verses with, and I actually if you were to just listen to just the drum part, it's kind of hard to hear with all the other stuff going on, but it's actually a country drum pattern. But it's just sped up a little bit and put the heavy music behind it, and you'd never know.
Now, did you have a background in extreme heavy music, or was like the fast double bass and stuff, like the blast beat? Was that like just something that came to you naturally, or did you have like a?
No, it just came naturally. At that time of my life, I wasn't really listening to a lot of like metal. When all that stuff was written was actually 3 years before the album came out.
Okay.
The stuff was written, and then Kenny wanted us to just play as a band, and kind of get our chops built up actually playing live shows. So we did that for a year on the Gulf Coast before we were ready to strike on the deal. And then when that all came down with Derek, there was a year between when Derek couldn't go on with us until we found Joey, and then got the ball rolling with the labels again.
And so how did you find Joey? Did he just try out, or?
We'd actually, when we decided that we were, going to pick it back up, because time went by, and then Kenny talked to the label, and they said that they were still really interested in, doing something with Pencil Fight, but we had to find somebody that could emulate the sound of Derek. They didn't want a totally different sound.
Sure.
We just put the word out for tryouts, and we had tried out just about every known singer on the local Gulf Coast scene, and just nobody could really pull off that sound of Derek. And then Joey was like literally our last one to try. And at that point, from trying so many people, we really didn't have, high hopes or expectations that we were ever going to find it. And then we were just blown away. It was a Sunday, and we got a hold of him and just said, we're hanging out up here at the studio. If you want, why don't you just stop in and we'll check you out for a minute. And I mean, he sang for maybe 2 minutes, and we called Kenny Vest and we're like, dude, we don't know what you're doing or where you're at. We know it's a Sunday evening, but you need to get your butt down here and you need to listen to this. And then also, he pulled it off close enough on Pencil Fight to where originally the song was written in a straight E, and he really struggled to try to hit the highest notes of the chorus pencil itself, the word pencil itself. So when we went to the studio, so the label could actually hear this, we played with, vocal effects until we finally got it so well done with his voice that what the label heard was Joey's voice on the verses, and we had the original recordings of Derek on the choruses.
Oh,
and they
wow.
could not tell the difference. They thought for sure that it was, Joey did the whole thing.
Can
That's
I get
awesome.
a copy of that?
What's that?
Can I get a copy of that?
I'm sure somewhere I actually have a copy of that. I've got just about every demo and silly CD that we ever made laying
Get
around.
ready to get a whole bunch of annoying emails from Joe.
All right, so my address is, and I'm not kidding, I'll put it online.
Okay.
Fuck.
I'll have to dig it out.
Hell yeah, man.
No, that's awesome. And, it's weird with Joey because, like I say, I'm such a huge Joey fan. And, dude, it's weird, too, that I like that because, dude, most of the stuff I listen to is, like, all screamed, guttural vocal.
Right.
But I do have an appreciation for dudes that can actually sing. And Joey was, to me, quintessential as far as the sound of the band went. And it's weird, too, because whenever I found out later that, like, no, dude, all this shit was already written, and Joey kind of came in and basically just owned it, like,
Oh, yeah.
And but it's weird because it sounds so natural on the record. And I even remember commenting to Joe that I actually enjoyed Joey singing more than I enjoyed Maynard from Tool, which is weird.
Which I didn't know how to take at the time, and I still kind of don't.
Dude, it's not that Maynard's like bad. I'm not saying that Maynard's bad and Joey's great, but like it just, as far as me as a person and my personal preference for what I like to hear from a singer, Joey had it all. And so when I found out that you guys were actually going to do stuff with Joey again, I was very excited. Even though I probably would have been totally fine had it been Derek, So it was one of those catch-22 situations where the only reason I have such a strong affinity for Joey is because that was the record that I had.
Certainly, yeah.
And,
I wish that Derek could somehow be a part of this second go around, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I got you.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Arise in Chaos?
No, I've never heard that.
I think that's the name of the band. But yeah, they're killer. It's like taking Lamb of God to the next level.
Okay. Well, we will become familiar. That's what we do on our show. So yeah, it's.
And it's funny how I found them. There was a video on Facebook, and it was promoting one of their songs. It wasn't the whole song. It was like a 2-minute snippet, and it was actually this crazy metal song played over video footage of different selections of cats. Hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah, The Divine. That's the name of the song, The Divine.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to, watch the actual official music video first, and then watch the Cat Thrash Fever, The Divine by Rising Chaos, and it is absolutely hilarious.
We'll check it out.
Listening to it right now, actually.
Sounds right up my alley. So
awesome. Yeah, I absolutely love that song. It's probably my favorite song that they do.
So, am I correct in assuming that if we ever decided to do an episode on Stryper, that Chad Kent would be the first person for us to call?
Will you please? Yeah.
It's a date.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
All right, so what date are we scheduling that for?
I don't know yet. It's probably going to be in 2018, but yeah.
Okay.
That's what's crazy about this show, dude. Like, we literally started in January doing this podcast, and it literally, it was literally just, 3 guys talking about music that they liked. And then we had a band contact us out of nowhere and want to talk to us, and then we just started being like, well, who else can we get to talk to us? And that's we kind of got this weird taste in our mouth for talking to people that we'd listened to in the past and people that are current. And when we got an email actually from we got an email from a fan of yours after we did the Atomship, because we did the Atomship episode, and we kind of just thought,
Corey Robertson, right?
Yes.
Corey. Love that guy. He was actually the guitar player in that band Castle Bravo that I was in for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great
guy.
Yeah, he was great, dude. He sends us an email and he's like, "I listened to your Atomship episode," and we're like, "Really?" Because we got a lot of shit for doing that, And but it was one of those things where we were, we always felt like, even though we have this like super metal persona or whatever, we were just like, dude, I want to introduce people to music that we think is good and is solid, and we always wanted to talk about Atomship, but we could never find the right context.
Some guy named Scott Chance also.
Yeah, Scott Chance. Yeah, he hit us up on Twitter, and so it was crazy the response that we got to doing that episode. We couldn't even believe it, and then Corey starts emailing us, and he's like, dude, he's like, I could just ask Chad to talk to you guys, and we were like, all right, cool, and because we get that sometimes all the time, and then we never hear anything back from it, and then like literally the next day we get an email, and it's like, all right, dude, this
it's
is
me,
awesome, yeah,
Chad Kent, how's it going?
Yeah. So even though you may not consider yourself to be a celebrity, to two guys that have been listening to your album since 2004, it's a big deal. So we
that's awesome.
We are honored by your presence.
Oh man, I appreciate it. I'm honored to be on the show, as since you guys like drummers so much, and that is for influences too. Like within the last say 10 years. I think hands down one of the most incredible progressive drummers that's walked the face of the earth, and puts to shame most of the drummers the popular ones that only folks know by because they're popular, would be Bobby Jarzambek. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but you should check him out. He is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, we'll check him out for sure.
And his brother actually played the guitar for Blotted Science, which that's another pretty wickedly crazy cool band.
Okay, cool.
Didn't he play with Crush 40?
I'm not sure. I mean, he could have. The guitar
Says he played with Rob
is,
Rock, which is the Christian guy, the Christian metal fan in me knows that name.
Okay, but his brother, the guitar player, is Rob Jarzambek. Amazing guitar player too. Absolutely incredible.
We will definitely check it out. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Like one of our it'll give me an excuse to listen to anything other than Dream Theater, which is the next big band we're going to be talking about.
Oh wow!
And
we're talking about him with John Drake.
Yeah, we're talking about Dream Theater, and I'm not like the biggest fan of like super like up its own butt music. And Dream Theater is definitely the epitome of that. But I'm going to listen to him and give him a fair shake.
When are you guys coming back to St. Louis?
Wow.
Well, you definitely have somewhere to sleep if that's
Well, I got your contact now. The next time I head up that way, I'll definitely get a hold of you.
Shit.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe that's when we'll do that Stryper episode.
Yeah.
There you go. That's awesome.
I was surprised when you said I'm thinking about coming to St. Louis. I'm like, why?
No. I just I love to drive. Yeah, I've been into cars my whole life. I got a twin turbo Mach 1.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you could have got here in no time. Yeah.
Yeah. As long as I didn't get picked up for speeding.
Well, our whole thing was I was like, well, shit, I'm having this baby in like forever, and so we were sure that like if we were like, yeah, dude, drive down on this day, we were gonna be like.
So Dan's in labor.
Yeah. I had to leave. We actually had to have somebody else host the podcast that day that they
I tried to get my girlfriend actually to go with me, and if she would have been able to go, I would have been there, but road trip just wasn't happening that day.
It's all good, man.
Cool, man.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But it's we got the future, and we can always go from there. So
absolutely. Oh yeah, and that's something too that when we were talking about Alien was just an interesting piece on that is I actually recorded the end of the song first because
the crazy breakdown at the end.
Yeah. Dave and I were like, let's just totally blow this album out the water, and let's have you play that as fast as you can play it, and then we'll just match the beats per minute and do the rest of the song. So
sure.
It took a few takes for me to get all the hits, because that's something that I was absolutely adamant about. Was I knew that they were gonna run a grid on the album, but I told them that I absolutely did not want any added notes or computer assistance on anything. Everything needed to be there.
Sure.
And if something had to be bumped here and there or something, then that's fine. But I wanted all the notes. And when we were finished recording that song, Dave was giving it a listen through, and Josh Freese was in NRG Studios at the time, and he actually came in, and I'm sitting in the back of the control room, and I'm just doing my thing, messing around the computer, and then this guy walks in, which people were in and out of there already, and then Dave starts talking to him, and I look up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Josh Freese. Don't be one of those little, fan guys, like all star-studded, like, oh my word, I want to. So I just sat there and played it cool, and then they got to the end of the song, and Josh just looks over at Dave, he's like, man, it's amazing. It's like, that's, you Pro Tooled it, right? And Dave said, nope. He said, that is all that guy sitting right back there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then Josh came over and he shook my hand and he said, dude, that's really amazing. And I was all,
right. Total fanboy. Yeah.
So back to my original question, how does it feel to be the greatest fucking drummer in the world?
I wish that were true, but thank you. I appreciate it.
I've actually gotten in arguments with people about whether or not your album was quantized or sample replaced. And I've gotten into like deep analysis on the audio. Like, no, right here you can see the waveform is not the same as it is over here. There's no possible way. Whatever, man. Easy drummer. I'm like, dude, this guy is easy drummer because clearly he's not having too much of a hard time.
Well, like I said, we really strive to make it as live as it could be, and actually some of the fills that I did, it might have just been the engineer was having difficulty with it, but when he would try to quantize some of the things, it would completely mess up the drum fills. So we were like, forget it. We're not even going to deal with that, because I do a lot of like 16th triplet patterns on top of straight 16ths or 32nds, and for some reason, like I said, I'm not into the Pro Tools and quantizing and things, but just a lot of those off fills or syncopated stuff, it just completely tore them up. So we're like, not doing it. Just leave it live, leave the live sound, and tweak the sound however you have to. But we weren't able to computerize it, I guess you'd say.
Well, we as the fans can hear it, and we appreciate it.
Well, that's awesome, and I'm glad that you appreciate it, because you are the guys that I'm playing to,
For sure. We've been around the block a few times, and we've been lied to a lot, and,
right.
You hear, and like especially listening to like extreme metal, like I do most of the time, dude. So much of that stuff is fake, and it just blows my mind. And that was part of my assholish nature of like wanting to show like stuff like Mothra to people, where I'm like, dude, this isn't even death metal, but in comparison to what you guys are doing, it just blows it out of the water. And this is all done live, mm-hmm. And that that always just kind of makes people think like, oh, maybe we should,
all right,
maybe we should try to do it for real,
Yeah, I still remember at a show I did in, I think it was Tampa, Florida. I was starting to get sick when I was on tour, so I wasn't really as accurate as I normally would be. And the cymbal muffle part in that breakdown in Mothra, where I'm grabbing the cymbals, doing the double bass, I sliced open my thumb so bad.
Oh, man.
It sprayed blood all over my drum heads, and I still have those drum heads out in my studio with brown stained blood.
Nice.
Because you do those catches with one hand, right?
Oh yeah, so you the same hand that you're striking the cymbal with, you're grabbing it.
I've never been good at it, but I've tried to do it with both hands, and it's just not possible. My spine will not twist.
Yeah, too much going on. And actually, I wish I had the recording I could send you of. There was a song that I did with Castle Bravo, and the time between each cymbal grab is less than half of the time in Mothra. Way faster, and double bass on top of it.
Just keep telling us how awesome you are, Chad. I already know.
Yeah.
We're just giving you trouble, man.
yeah, it's okay, totally, man.
Yeah, no. Well, we actually we need to finish up that Sepultura record or episode we're doing, but dude, we really appreciate you taking the time out. This is something we've definitely wanted to happen for a while, and
hell yeah,
this is not the last you'll hear from us, And,
man, awesome! I'd love to chat with you guys anytime you want.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you guys are on tour and are just sitting in a green room somewhere and want to say, hey, let's call those guys, and just Dan can talk to Joey for 5 minutes. Do that.
Well, hey, I could get Roy and Jared, out here, and we could talk with you guys for a little bit.
Be cool.
Hell yeah.
So,
down with that.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Awesome. And thank you again for having me on the show.
Yeah, for sure, man.
This has been a special presentation of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out and it lets us know you're listening. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. We are on TuneIn Radio. So if you have an Amazon Echo product, you can say to it, Alexa, play the latest episode of Discography Discussion, and she will. 1 million thank yous go out to Chad Kent. It's been a dream and privilege to meet you, and we'll talk to you soon. Do one more because it broke up in the middle.
Okay.
As he points the mic at his drum kit.
That's beautiful, man.
Yep. This is Chad Kent from Discography from Atomship. Oh, man. This is Chad Kent from Atomship on Discography Discussion.
I need to go change my pants.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's amazing.
That was horrible. That was terrible.
No.
No, what?
It's
Did
fine.
I say it right?
I'll take it.
Perfect. We're still going to throw that in there.
He's going to do it again.
He's going to do it again.
Don't you love recording full set of drums over a webcam?
That's awesome, dude.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure my neighbors just hate my guts right now.